ensure that the sewer system is owned and operated in compliance with laws and regulations. The Borough Council will now hear from the public regarding their input on the ordinance for Borough Council, if there are any. We have Special Counsel Liz Haiti, who will be able to address any questions the public have or any comments they may have. We have her on. As I expected, no public comment on this, it's fine.
I have one thing.
I'm sorry, yes.
How do we even know what you guys all agreed on when we don't see it, like what was agreed on? I know that, they might be getting some of our problems, we might be getting some of their problems. Was all that weighed out?
Can you hear her?
I can't hear her.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Hold on. Yeah, can you closer to the cord so she can hear you?
Paula, could you say your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
Paula Cook.
And your address, I'm sorry, just be on the address.
Okay.
And your address, ma'am, please.
Okay, just before everything is agreed upon, I just was wondering if you have all read the fine print on both sides to protect everybody. You're taking on another area that might have a lot more problems than what you know, or vice versa. Maybe we have a lot more problems than what they know. How do we know anything when we don't know what's written in the rules?
Well, nothing's changed. This is the same thing that we've been doing for years, and we just never officially drafted. So we're just making it official today. This is the same thing that we've been doing for however many years, the borough and Humboldt's been.
It's all the same sources, and it's all been one from the beginning. It's not separate, even though the authority doesn't exist. It's still all part of the same team system.
Okay, that was my only concern, like, on those parties.
When the boroughs do this, all they're doing is creating another board. Basically, they're creating this in the actual authority board. It's not changing the operation of anything. And ma'am, could you put your address on the record for the court board?
448 Friendship Road. Beaver Falls.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Leah Hauser, Foxwood Road. If it's not changing anything, what's the purpose of the board?
I'm happy to address that. My name is Liz Davey. So there are rules and regulations in Pennsylvania that require, that Big Beaver actually, as of right now, is not compliant with. So if you put the assets and have them run by this authority board, you now are in compliance with Pennsylvania regulations regarding utilities. It's really, there's not going to be a change other than there will be a separate board that will make the decisions as opposed to just Big Beaver's board. That board will have members from Borough and Big Beaver, and it will be, still run by the same people. The bills that go out will say it's from Big Beaver Authority instead of the Borough of Big Beaver. And you won't see any difference just because it's being created this authority in the operation or anything other than the building.
What is your name again?
Leah Hauser.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So now we will close the public portion of this meeting or hearing, and I think Liz is asking for a vote to approve number 250, which is the ordinance 250, to create a joint municipal authority with the borough of Summit. So I think we're asking for one of the board members to make that.
Need a second?
Second,
Who seconded it?
Jeff McGee.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, so in accordance with the Pennsylvania Municipality Authorities Act, the ordinance has authorized the publication of the notice that the ordinance was approved. The borough will publish such notice in accordance with the act.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
That concludes the public hearing part.
Thanks, guys. Am I done?
Yes, thank you.
Great job.
Okay, we're gonna bring the, council meeting to order with the board's prayer.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And amen.
Kim Wagner. Here. Walter. Here. Stephanie Lee. Here. Jessica Kane. Carla Myers. Here. Deborah Eastler. Lana Hornick.
Here.
Ann Martone. Here. Mike Sanford.
Here.
Jennifer Gasser here. David Johnson. Here. William Kane. John Graham.
Okay, I need, to do the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we are going to move on to public comments, and, we have people who emailed in, so, Kathy McClure is up. Hi.
Kathy McClure, I'm a resident of Beaver Borough, and I have a few questions about the switch application, which I understand has been received. And I don't know to whom to address these, perhaps the engineer can answer some of these questions we might have. Is the application complete? Do we know the power source? Do we have data for air quality, water quality? Do we know, are they providing their own power? And that's for the backup power system. And is this the light and sound? And what about LERTA? Did they file a LERTA application with this application? Okay. And my second set of questions is about our punitive amendment. What is the scope of this? And how do we find out more about what is going to be happening with the punitive amendment? And how do we move forward in addressing the issues that we need to address? Thank you.
Dawn, would you like to take it?
The last one, the current amendment. So the current amendment process was commenced. I would note that it was commenced on the evening after the switch application was received. So the current amendment would not apply to the switch application. Once the current amendment is invoked, the borough has 30 days to pass a resolution that specifies the specific defects that it is alleging occur in the ordinance. That will be passed by the council within that 30-day time period. We have started to work on that resolution for adoption. With respect to the switch application, and I don't know that I can get into a whole lot of the specifics, it's a voluminous application. It was administratively complete in the sense that it contained the required information for the land development submittal. There was a sound study included with it. There was an environmental impact study included with it. There are detailed plans that go into the proposed use of the property in terms of where buildings will be oriented, the size of buildings. There's a stormwater management report submitted with it. There are detailed stormwater management plans, detailed erosion and sedimentation control plans. There is an application submitted for the Beaver County Conservation District for review of the erosion and sedimentation control in the NTDES permit. The plans do not show any on-site power generation that is not backup in nature. So if your question was, are they proposing to provide an independent power supply on the site to power this? The answer is no. The plan does reflect the idea that there will be backup capacity on site to be used in the event of an emergency. I think I got everything you asked, but if there's something I missed, please let me know and I'll be glad to try to. There is no LERTA application submitted with this.
Water.
I'm sorry.
A comment about water, please. Water use.
Water. Their proposal is to use public water supply for the, I guess, two purposes. One would be the initial fill up of the cooling system. They do indicate in the application that they will do that over a period of time so that they do not impact in any way the supply of water in the community. And beyond that, their water supply would be fire protection and domestic water for bathrooms. So there's no intent to use water from the site. There's no wells to be drilled. There's no use of any wells that are on the site. None of that is required.
Do they mention the type of cooling system that they plan to use for the?
It's a proprietary closed loop system that they developed and they've used in other parts of the country. But it is not it's not an evaporative cooling system. That was technology used by other people in other parts of the country. It's not evaporative cooling.
Could I ask a question on that? On the water? So you said they're gonna use.
Yeah,
I think you have to stand and give your name and address.
Name and address.
My name is Bart Carr, I live on 204 Holloway Road. You said they're gonna use, our Beaver Falls water to fill it to start with. And then, and they're gonna do it over time, so there'd be no impact. Is there a guarantee there's not gonna be an impact? And what's the outfall from them overusing it and making an impact? And are we to assume that they're gonna fill it one time and never have to add to it? Because that can't be. Then you got evaporation, you got, it's probably not a closed system. You'll probably have cooling towers, and then you got evaporation. So.
You can address the engineering of it.
So it is, I didn't look at the plans it's out last week, so I'm taking notes on that to get into all this. But I have spoken in water, and it is a closed, from what they say, it's a closed loop system. Once I read everything what they are, I'll know that, but they've told me multiple times that in terms of evaporation, there's no evaporation. It's a closed system. I mean, not that there's minuscule evaporation, there's also a certain type of chemical that they add to it. I don't know the name of that chemical, they mentioned it to me, but once I get into the reports, I'll go through that, and I'll have that in my review, I'll explain that stuff for it, and I'll let you know once I, look at that. So, that's.
And in terms of the impact question that you asked, I think that would be a consultation they would have with the water supplier to make sure that how much water could they draw over what period of time so that it does not impact the water supply. So, I don't know, I can't tell you it's,
The chemical is glycol,
10,000
so it's
gallons,
green here, it's corn.
20,000
That's not even corn for it. Green for it.
Anything else, Kathy? Oh, there's lots. What about? Yeah, I don't want to slow things up. I think we have a lot of questions. We need to answer them so everyone knows. And I think there is concern about how do we make sure that they're accountable to what they're putting down. I think that's the big open hole that we have with our SR zoning. It doesn't provide accountability because there's nothing that is in strong custom. hopefully we can correct that, so in the future, we won't have to deal with this again somewhere else down the road.
So that we understand, because, I don't know that whether there was sworn testimony or anything like that would change accountability for violating something in the plans that get approved. Once the plans get approved, they are bound by them, and to the extent that they violate those plans, they violate their approval. So we would have enforcement rights. The fact that sworn testimony has nothing to do with the enforcement rights that the borough would have in the event they violate what ultimately gets approved.
Especially if they have a certificate of occupancy permit at some point, that will be using the final, before the occupies building. And if there's some life and safety issues and things like that that are not compliant with system, there's always the ability to get back to their occupancy permit. That doesn't happen very often, that's not normal, but there is that also, it's a possibility, so.
Marty Morris?
Marty Morris, Foxwood Road. I want to cover a couple points, and it won't take too long, but part of it's a short review. At the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned that there's a lot of technical issues that we have to really ferret out to see if we can add them to the permit requirements. Well, that horse has left the barn now because we already received the paperwork, and tangential to that, my understanding is that that would eliminate the need for a curative amendment. That's neither here nor there, but you might want to put in the notes that you might look at just going through a conventional process for zoning ordinance revision to keep it up for the purpose of the conditional use and everything that we want to add to that, rather than curative, because curative's a little more red tape, and also has a 3-year limit once you use it up. This time, there's no chance of using it again for 3 more years. So getting back to what I said about the summary, I did mention that I had been speaking with a couple executives at Switch. And then I had another email reply last week since then, which I'd like to read to you. And I'm going to read it because that email tells me that either they don't understand the requirements for protecting against infrasound, or the high likelihood that infrasound will be a problem emanating from their data center unless they do stop it at the source, and there's good ways they can do that. And that email was a response to a video 1-hour discussion I had with them at the beginning of July, where they pleaded ignorance to what infrasound is, why it's a concern, and then say, assure me, we've never had that problem with other switch locations. Well, there's good reasons why our situation is different than the others. Scientifically, it would not have been a problem. It wasn't a problem at those other locations, but it will be at this one. The Danish countries a simple means to cure it. So this email's from Steve Roberts. After listening to your concerns on the 22nd, we have taken the time to connect with our internal team as well as our outside acoustical consultant. They informed us that the chiller manufacturers only measured down to 30 hertz in their factory testing, and that's because that's what's audible to the human ear. Infrasound, 20 hertz and lower, is not detectable and thus not measured. There is also no guidance from industry-wide groups like the Data Center Coalition and others that have identified this as an issue. Regarding the foundations, okay, just before I get back to it. Anyways, he goes on to say, as far as, the foundation, they plan to mount the chillers units on strings, and then springs will be on bolted to a concrete slab. And that's just the simple method so that it doesn't jar the building, so that the generators aren't jarring their whole, I didn't mean your generators, I meant the chiller unit isn't jarring the whole building or the unit itself. But that won't work, that actually will exacerbate the infrared problem because it will direct it directly to the dirt under that slab, and the infrasound likes to travel through dirt more than the air. And they didn't say anything about attenuating the air transfer, which could be done also. So there are other things, when I talked with them about nighttime light avoidance, in other words, light contamination to the neighborhood, and we talked about environmental issues from the generators and how they can actually baffle the sound of generators. They didn't even reply back on that. So, number one, in the video discussion I had with Natalie Mitchell and also with Steve Roberts, who's on the line too, they were either not knowledgeable in areas that didn't concern other installations, and they said they would have to talk back to their technical people, or their technical people are not knowledgeable now since this email said they had talked to the technical people, and he's reporting back what they said, which, like I indicated, with my knowledge, would make the situation worse, not help it. So, So what I would like to do, and I actually gave Jesse Dennehy a resume, my resume, listing the experience I've had as an engineer for 40 years, and it's a standard formatted resume with the offer to be a consultant on this matter to Big Beaver at no charge, pro bono. And the reason for that is, I think that if I continue my discussions, which as I'd like to do, it'll have more sway with them. And they'll take it more seriously if they know I'm speaking for Big Beaver. And having said that, I've already sent copies of the information to our council president, so everything's on the record. Matter of fact, she was on the CC of the email that I just read. So I would like to leave with that question, if there's any possibility, and Justin said she would have to discuss with council to see, first of all, if there's any requirement about this, because it may be called a new position. It's a position with no budget consequence, no exchange of money. It's a volunteer job. So I'd like to know if Beaver would like me to have a role in evaluating the technical aspects of the data center that I haven't heard specifically things that I'm concerned about being mentioned in that detail by anybody in the council or reporting to council, nor switch themselves. So are there any questions before I sit down?
Thank you. Jennifer Calvin?
Okay. I live on McKinley Road. Okay. They're flying like crazy up and down that road. Is it possible, like when you're coming from down below McKinley up, not that it's gonna help, to put a speed sign? And then, can we get several speed bumps on the straight stretch? Those are my key.
Do you mean like speed limit signs?
No, speed bumps, you know that?
No, like the signs.
Oh, yeah, speed limit, like say, because there's one at the beginning from Wallace Run. Sure. But as you come up the hill from the other direction, from Park Road, there's no sign say as you come up, say to the top.
Okay.
Not that that would help, but sure. And then speed bumps on a straight stretch.
Dan?
The speed humps,
Whatever.
but there needs to be an ordinance in place first of all to allow that. I don't know if you could have that. But there's very specific requirements for a speed hump, and, it's on a hill, it's a certain grade, a lot of sun before and after, and certain geometry, you have. So, I mean, that's something that we're going to talk about.
At least the sign.
Yeah, yes,
That's no problem. Yeah, okay. Please look into the speed bumps, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Evans?
Hi, I didn't really have anything to say, but now I do. Okay. As far as whoever monitors the Switch data center, we all know that these companies that have billions and billions of dollars, when they do something wrong, they're just going to pay their fine. That's a proven fact across the United States with not just data centers. They have more money than we will ever dream of, so they just pay the fine, keep on doing what they're doing. I just talked to a woman Tuesday, I think it was, or Monday, at West Mayfield. I want to thank council for this because her son lives in Virginia, where they got loud in Virginia. They can't even sell their houses. They want to move because of the noise, the vibrations that I know that you guys don't believe will happen. And they can't sell their houses, and they aren't the only ones trying to sell their homes. But nobody wants their homes down there. So I want to thank you for dropping the value of my house. I find it very convenient that we brought to you a long time ago about doing a curative amendment or something, what is it, the curative motion? And you conveniently waited, and I know that you guys have had contact with Switch because Switch tells people they talk to you. And you conveniently waited until after they filed their application in order to file it. And to me, that was total convenience because you were asked at least a month or two ago about it. So I want to thank you. I'm just so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. And I just felt I needed to say that. And I know that most of you don't care that we're disappointed residents. Okay, thanks.
And you're true about the value in selling in Big Beaver, because I've been turned down a bunch of applications or people that wanted to buy, but their hold off is
Waiting for this.
the data center.
This woman in
So I can't sell
Virginia,
my
her
house
son
either.
has lived there for years. They want to move out and they can't sell their houses. Nobody wants them. So thank you very much for my retirement.
Thank you, Cindy. Paula?
We have not talked, I have not talked to Marty, I have not talked to Cindy about what we were gonna say today. But I am gonna, reemphasize a couple things. Number one, I'm really glad that you're not doing that little timer again. But why all of a sudden are you asking for our names and addresses? Are not people that live in Malcolm or Pittsburgh or wherever, are they not allowed to speak at our meetings anymore? I just wanted to ask.
We were asking for that from a hearing that we just had.
Okay, but I noticed that after that.
They continued on with that. We didn't ask them to.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I do really appreciate you doing the curative amendment, but 30 days? Oh, they're not doing enough, I just said you had 30 days for
Let me
that.
be clear, we have 30 days to specify the defects. We have 6 months, 180 days to adopt a cure.
Okay.
But it's too late for Switch since they already filed their application.
The curative amendment was not limited to, it was not, I want to be very clear on this, it was not directed at any one property, it was not directed at any one person.
But it won't apply to them because they filed before.
I could finish it.
Okay.
Thank you. The third amendment was suggested by several people.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a defect in the ordinance for Big Beaver Borough with respect to the use as a data center. That use was provided for in the ordinance, and therefore there wasn't a defect with respect to it.
Wrong.
So,
Not for them.
and there was also an additional use with respect to ethanol facilities that was included in that curative amendment because there was no provision for that use. Also, the applicability of the curative amendment, I'll admit the timing was unusual, but
Convenient. Yeah, convenient.
I won't interrupt you if you don't interrupt me.
We're trying to help you along with your work, so.
Don't talk unless you are recognized. Thank you.
The application that was submitted, it got submitted the day it got submitted. There's nobody on this board or this council that could do anything about it. The suggestion that somebody on this council or any of the professionals involved discuss the possibility of the curative amendment with Switch is not true. They had no idea that was happening. When I talked to the attorney for Switch after the application was filed, they filed it when they filed it because they were concerned that the state was going to pass the moratorium. That's what drove them to file when they filed. So if you want to take that up with the state legislature, you can certainly do that. That's what prompted them to file it.
People should contact their state representative.
Please wait to be recognized.
Okay, I still had a couple more little things to say. As everybody knows, I have shut down my Big Beaver Talk and Events page, which was helping you and helping us. It's a restart. I would like to restart again with you. You have done nothing but avoided the whole subject since when? Maybe September, October, when all of this came up. It's about time that you actually are honest with us and we can be honest with you. A good start of it is all the big wigs that want to do the lawyer stuff and all the people you hire. We have just as many on our side. We have people from Fair Shake, attorneys. There are residents suing their councils right now. I know that you guys are looking at it. If things don't go right, you can get sued. It's all taxpayer money. It's about time that we work together. I love Marty's idea. Once you get this little 30-day thing going, I hope that you work with some of our residents who have a little bit more intelligence into the environment and into everything that's going on in West City. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the approval of minutes. We're gonna approve the minutes of July 7th and 9th. Before we do that, let me read this into record. The Borough held an executive session on Wednesday, July 8th, 2026, from 6 o'clock p.m. to 7:11 p.m. for emergency preparedness meeting. Now we're gonna approve the minutes of July 7th and 9th, 2026, the June 2026 financials, and the July 2026 bill list. Can I get a motion for that, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can we get a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Approve the minutes.
Hey, Jen, I do have a question, regarding the business.
Sure.
Is looking at just some of the moving costs that have been coming through on the bill, I know there's a lot that has to do with right now. Can you maybe talk about, the differences in working half versus what we're spending now, because there was no investments like that, because everything in
Can you discuss that one, Jen?
I can. In 2026, the amount that
we have been through, and this goes until, just double checking my dates here. This is until June 23rd. So from January 1st through June 23rd, the amount that we have enrolled for a right to know request is $6,860. To compare that to prior years in 2025, these are legal fees and right to know responses. In 2025, we paid $400 in legal fees and right to know request. 2024 was $140, and 2023 was $40.
And that's the money that we plan for what? To be, just so I understand. Just to review all the
Responses, there's been some appeals, and then there's appeals as well that we received.
So $6,800 in the first 6 months of this year versus the entire year, just $400. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna move on to administrative reports. Mayor?
Thanks, Aaron. I am going to be reading some of this because there are some facts in here that I want to make sure I don't get incorrect. I want to talk a little bit about our Beaver Veterans Memorial and the previous group that had created and was created in order to construct the Veterans Memorial. It's called the Beaver Veterans Memorial Inc. And I'm just going to be clear that once I get through all this, I'm not asking council for any funding at this time or really any decisions. It's rather when we come to aware of an initiative that I know I've mentioned, I think more of you one you've done the last one. I don't think anybody else or a few other people that could have been in the audience. I don't think they're here tonight, so there'll be more coming after tonight, Mike. Just to ask for basically council support and cooperation as we move forward with some of the things that a few of us have been talking about. And I just want to take a minute to recognize kind of who came before us and the Beaver Veterans Memorial was established in March of 1991. And on the work that they did with countless volunteer hours, they had a lot of community support, they did fundraisers. Their dedication was culminated basically with the dedication of the memorial on November 11th, which was Veterans Day 1995. Without the commitment of the people that came before, we would not have, the beautiful memorial that we have outside the doors right now. And just to recognize the people that were part of that steering committee, there were 14 original members, 15 original members. And for some of you that are lifelong residents of Big Beaver, they'll recognize a lot of these names. And sadly, the majority of just talking about that anymore. There's a few that are still here. But it was Beverly Beaver, Ruth Cunning, Patricia Andola, Janet Colson, Patricia Davidson, Janet Greenblatt, Albert Whitlatch, Dan Mako, George Aiken, Mario Buzzy, William McKenzie, Eugene Whitlatch, Rose Andola, Jason Lanfort, and Ron Whitlatch. I think that, moving forward, it would be nice if we could renew their mission, and, carry on forward, the legacy that they created. With that moving forward, the goal here is to reactivate, the Big Beaver Veterans Memorial Incorporated Group. And it is still an active, what they're calling it a domestic, nonprofit organization. Now, I did some research and I'm not seeing that it's considered a 501c3, so we have some work to do to figure out the situation there, whether it is or we do have an active EIN number. It is still active with the state. So there's going to be a little digging there to figure some of that stuff out. But the goal is to reactivate this group, to bring together a new generation of volunteers that are committed to continuing the work that these 15 put forward, 35 years ago. We will focus on preserving and maintaining the existing memorial, planning capital improvements that respect the original vision, like additional flagpoles for, and these are just some of the ideas that have been floated around, additional flagpoles for the different branches, maybe a larger American flagpole, things like that. Ensuring the memorial remains a place of honor for generations to come, encouraging community involvement and recognizing and supporting our veterans. Another initiative that we want to look into with this group, and it is going to be all volunteer, community-based, with the people, is to look at a hometown heroes banner program. So I'm sure a lot of you have gone through other towns, municipalities, cities, and you see the hometown hero banners that represent veterans of all the different branches, or in. So we want to explore that and see if that's something that we could get started doing with Beaver. So, that we with Veterans Memorial, we have another visual representation, and we honor and thank the veterans who are from and within the Beaver. As far as funding goes, I want to emphasize, we're not requesting any funding from the borough at this time, if that, until we know kind of the direction we're going to go and what needs to be done. At this point, there will be no funding request. The hope is to use community fundraising, donations, sponsorships, and grants, and working with the different federal and state agencies for veterans, and some of the local veteran groups to help with that funding. And at this point, basically, I see this as a partnership between the memorial and the property is owned by the borough, so it's a partnership between the community-led group with the borough. Council will be kept informed as developments happen, and we can do that either through the Parks and Committee or just direct reports to council as a whole, whatever you all would like. And any projects that will require borough approval, we can come to you for. So, closing, I think that it's important that as a community, we should never forget those who serve. My hope, and I have this written down to make sure I get it correct, my hope is that together we can preserve the legacy of the past while creating new ways to recognize the veterans who call it our home. And the war is not simply stolen bronze, it's a promise that community never forget those who need to the cause. I hope that we honor that promise with generations to come. So, the board of working councils, again, I just want to make sure we have your support before we start going down the rabbit hole, spending a bunch of time to bring these people together and have meetings and spend a bunch of time that we're not doing something that the council is not, happy with. So, I welcome any questions or comments you guys may have. We have support in Western Council, we have to start down the staff.
Do you have any volunteers that are?
Not 100%, I know, my mother and I have called and we've talked to Marty, I have some other people, a list of people I'm going to talk to, some Deep London, that is a mention, and our correspondents in the Army. I think she was interested, and I was going to speak with the other people who know. We have a few set up, and then we'll go from there. So, just again, I didn't want to waste a bunch of people's time for you guys to go. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Michelle. President's report, Kim is out of town. I don't have anything to speak about, so we're going to move on to see administrator.
I just asked all the council review committees, I'm gonna be asking for your budget attached next month, it's gonna make all of them, you guys can start thinking about that, please, I'm starting budget tracking now. So I think you're looking for it for next year, so we can try to get that in the budget. The other thing I have, the other part is we got more that we didn't have an administrative meeting with Houston Mass for a pipeline project that we're looking to do in the borough, within the next couple of years.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, professional reports, fire department, their report has been turned in. Matt, do you have anything to add to it?
Well, I don't think really we had 18 calls in the month of June. We collected 5 hours of night training and about 50 hours of training outside of our job.
Thank you. Zoning code enforcement, their report's also been turned in. Bill, do you have anything to add to it?
Specifically, issued 5 building permits. Been working through the code enforcement aspect of it. I issued 4 more citations in the month of June, and I got magistrate hearings for fire citations on August 3rd, August 11th, and September 15th.
Police department, they turned in their report. Chief, do you have anything to add to it?
Nothing additional, just some of the incidents reflected in that report, 87 calls for service, including some of the things that were addressed at the last meeting with traffic issues on South Park, Richmond Drive, and everything. So, going forward, we'll address some of the concerns that Ms. Collins brought up as well.
Thank you, Chief. Engineer Dan.
Yes, thank you. So I won't go through everything in the report. that'll take a while. But, just a couple of, the things, so one of the things Jennifer mentioned is we did have an administrative meeting with the city too about, Eastern Gas and Transmission. It's gonna be constructing the city in 2028, 2-mile long gas line that will be running basically from the Koppel up to Beaver. The purpose of this is not necessarily to improve the flow of gas through the system. It's more like a railroad siding. Right? So it's a way that they store additional gas in the system. So it's basically 2 miles long of a pipe. It's 24 inches diameter. We'll be constructing it, and it's basically to have excess gas available in the system that they can move through it when necessary. So that's essentially what that project is. But it's should be relatively low impact. It's an area where there's a gas line already running. This would just be parallel to the same gas line they have. But it was very nice. They had a nice presentation. They were very on top of things, very environmentally concerned, and that was nice to see.
And just to add to that, they will have an open house at the Ramada Thursday, August 6th from 5:30 to 7:30, and this is for their private strata. So they're having an open house for that program.
There'll be a planning committee meeting coming up on Thursday evening. One of the things primarily to continue to discuss the proposed battery energy storage system ordinance. So we'll continue to go through that and welcome comments on that. It's aware that we made, there's a one-lane road on Norwood Road now. That road has been in poor shape for quite a while. So I've been looking into that. The railroad is also, there's some tangential movement down the railroad tracks. I've been in contact with the railroad. They're aware of that. They actually knew this. They were doing their own testing down there. So without jumping to any conclusions at the moment, we're looking into that. But I guess my point is that I just wanted to mention is that it will most likely have to remain in one lane for a while until we get this figured out. It's a much larger problem than just a simple slide impacting that specific finite area. It kind of extends to a larger area there, my first impression of it. Don't know that for certain yet, I haven't done all the testing, but that will take a while until that is resolved, and I think it'll be full operation, most likely before both sides it's also. The Mitsubishi plant, Matt, I wanted to mention this to you. So they applied for a temporary certificate of occupancy permit for the production area and the warehouse area of that plant. The purpose of that is so to give them the ability to bring the machinery in so they can start assembling that and not producing anything and not assembling anything, but just to supply, to kind of merchandise, to supply their area so that they're ready to go when they're ready for their full occupancy permit. So they have, the plans have been reviewed by NDIA, they have done the main inspections have been completed. Matt, the one thing that is holding them up right now, they'll be contacting them shortly, is they have a dialer system, if there's an emergency, exactly who should they contact, they have to reprogram it. So, yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so that seems to be, hopefully that gets worked out, and I'm assuming in about a week they might be able to do the final inspection to give them a temporary certificate of occupancy to use those back areas. Place looks great. They have their asphalt-based courses down all around the site, all the parking areas, the driveway areas. Some of the sidewalks are in, some of the rest of the sidewalks are prepped, ready to go. They won't put the final wearing course on until they're a little closer to ready to open this and to operate there. But it is, it's going along. It's a nice, I think they've said from day one they want a September 15th opening. They're still on target with it. They've stayed on track there. So that's been really good. The Avery Hill Road, Norwood Drive Road paving project will probably be the in Beaver Borough 2026 road pavement project. So contracts have been signed. We will have, they just submitted their bonds and insurance certificates and things like that, which I'll have to do that. We will have a pre-construction meeting very shortly on that, possibly on Friday, if not beginning next week. But we'll go through that. The goal is to have this completed by the beginning of school. The beginning of school is up to August 24th. So that's the goal here. We've been talking with the stone company who's supplying the climbing, so spoke with them today. But that's moving along. There was a comment, I think, also at the last meeting about potentially getting the road a little bit wider than what it is now. So that's maybe the public works committee. We can talk about that a little bit. If that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Okay. So those were the main things that
Yeah.
So I'll talk about shaping circle and that.
Is the public allowed to make any comment on any of this portion of the meeting?
Not really supposed to.
Okay.
On the Robert's rule.
Okay, Solicitor Mike?
Other than what I was given by, Shannon and review.
Sure.
She didn't be specific. She was
Not always.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, not always.
Yeah, I imagine she was coming in. So that's not an idea.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to new business. Letter A, review the status of Shady Circle, paper road, including the solicitor's legal review and the borough's engineer's input. Daniel?
Yes, thank you. So I spoke to the planning committee about this at the last planning committee meeting. So Shaden Circle, as you know, is a fairly large subdivision. I think it was the 1950s subdivision that was originally created. For whatever reason, part of that plan was developed, there's a large section of that plan that was never developed. So, there's a large section of what's called Shaden Circle that was never created, never opened, never constructed, never used. It was never dedicated, to the borough. It was never offered for dedication. So we have a situation now, people have been buying some lots in that plan. And recently there was, some individuals that bought a lot and consolidated some property and they want to construct a house there. I'm assuming there'll be others down the road that will do that. They asked, and requested that they can use that roadway as a driveway, so they extend from the public road, the driveway is on the access to the property, right? A much safer way of accessing the property than accessing the facility. However, in these situations, one of the things that we really have about licensing today, we always try to deal with these situations a lot. And in other municipalities, when they have these situations, it's really not a public road. The ownership of that road at this time refers back to the property owners that own property in that thing. So if this property abuts that, it's reversing the rights. And also, it gives you the right to anybody who owns property in that plan would have the right to use that, which would be a public road, or a private road, excuse me. So I'm not saying, I'm not the attorney on this, we have consultation with the attorney, the solicitor, on this to confirm that, but that's how we would handle this in other municipalities. If by operation of law, there are rights of the private property owner to use that in that manner. So all I'm saying is I wanted to bring this to the attention of the council to maybe consider that if they want to look further into that. Because I think to help develop this property in the future, not develop is the right word, but to have people use their lots in this, it's more like access use to their lots, essentially.
Are you guys okay from the community
Okay, yes, we're moving forward.
Oh, you don't have to.
Letter B, approval to publish notice of adopted ordinance to form an authority.
And this is to advertise the notice of the first, as when one does adopt the ordinance.
Still be reviewed.
So, any approval for that?
Very beginning of this meeting.
Second? Do I have to do an initial? No, okay, all in favor? Opposed? And then letter C, donation to the Big Beaver Volunteer Fire Company in the amount of $79,500.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just to be clear, that is related to the borough normally makes to the fire department every year.
Correct. Do you have anything else to speak on? Does anybody have any questions?
When we're done here, we have one more thing to
Yes. Do I have a second? Okay. Have you all in favor? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then, so I need to add a letter B under new business?
It's really good business.
Okay.
I suggested to Jen that it might be a good idea to discuss, so council is aware of the process followed for the switch application, so the public can hear what that process is, just so that everybody understands what the process is going forward. So the application is submitted. The first planning committee review of that application will occur on August 27th. That will be the first time that the application is discussed in a public meeting, first opportunity for the planning committee to comment on it, the public to comment on it. Prior to that time, I suspect that there will be some review letters from township consultants. Dan and his group will be leading the way for the review of the plan. There will be some consultants working under Dan or next to Dan, depending on how you look at the organizational chart. Those will include a acoustical engineer who specializes in sound to make sure that the plant is addressing all of the implications and ramifications and complications created by the data center with respect to sound. There will be a traffic engineer to address not only the long-term traffic, which will be, in most cases, or most likely be minimal, but in the construction phase of this project, it will be significant, so there'll need to be a plan for how that traffic could be handled and any mitigation that's required. There also may be, or likely be, a consultant who specifically has knowledge in the operation of data centers to provide input on the operations that are proposed for this particular data center and how they tie into the plans that have been submitted. I think we should discuss for 1 minute too about what the council's role in this process is, because that's important to understand. Council is not an advocate for or against any plan that comes before it. Council's job is to adjudicate the application, to determine whether or not the application complies with the applicable ordinances. In that role, as I said, they are not advocating for anything. They are merely adjudicating, does the application meet the requirements in the ordinance or not. And it will make its decision based upon the requirements that are there. So although I appreciate the suggestion that there be some collaboration with people that may be opposed to the data center, it's not appropriate for council to collaborate. For instance, Dan is reviewing an application. He's reviewing that objectively to determine whether or not that application meets the requirements You know, if he looks at stormwater, there's an ordinance that says it has to happen in stormwater, and then looks at grading, there's grading, erosion and sedimentation control, the site development aspects, the landscaping aspects, the site lighting, all of those things, they get evaluated based upon what's in the ordinances. And he issues a report as an objective third-party consultant to advise the borough as to whether or not there's compliance or not. There's one other thing that's somewhat unique, and a lot of times members of the public do not appreciate this obligation that's put on a governing body. The governing body actually has a duty under the law to, in good faith, advise an applicant of any deficiencies in their plan and what's necessary to correct it to bring into compliance. So this is not a game where this council can play gotcha. Oh, you missed subparagraph B in the ordinance in section, 2102. You can't do that. You have to tell them there's a violation and give them an opportunity to correct that deficiency or violation. So I just want the council to understand what their role is in this. And I want the public to appreciate what the role of the council is in this. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that process, if you like.
Anybody have anything to add? Okay, we will. What's in the application?
Yes,
Okay, then, we'll hold off on questions for the public hearing. Meeting is adjourned at 7:00.